At this point, I believe we should take a quarter of an hour for questions or so. We took rather longer than 5 minutes each, but I think there are definitely, I believe there are views that should be shared from within the public. So if you'd like to share your views, please do so. But please also tell us who you are and where you come from. And I'd like to remind you that this session is being recorded.
Yes, program at the Fitzwilliam Museum, Cambridge. For many years I taught at the University in Cambridge the dreaded forensic science, as you probably guessed. And when we started our course in 1998, there were only 8 forensic science courses in the UCAS handbook. I think the current number was well over 400. So I think with the development of forensic science as almost a key university curriculum subject is established. I no point arguing that. But when we started off, I say we, in a small number of academics, mostly in the post-92 institutions, mostly chemists and geologists facing redundancy. But one of the things we did, we held meetings like this, and to try and thrash out what we meant by forensic science. That's all now past history. We all know how that happened. One of the interesting features, which wasn't interesting at the time, was scary at the time, was that we just couldn't get any significant engagement with the industry. And the Forensic Science Service was by far the most dominating dead hand on forensic science in the UK at the time. It just wasn't interested in working with academics. So they were like the gatekeepers keeping the secret subject themselves. It seems to me that heritage science is much more mature than that. I'm talking about forensic science, I don't think it's that much difference. But one of the interesting things, meetings that we had, even with the Forensic Science Society, was there was no industry engagement, virtually none. We had to build the subject for ourselves. But one of the things we did spend a lot of time trying to define what we meant by forensic science, and you probably all understand that forensic science is to do with the law. Court presentations. The generic use of the word forensic, that's right. I mean, people talk about forensic investigations into the accounts of some company, but what they're really talking about is a very detailed account. It seems to me that heritage science is in a very similar situation, because it's not really what you do. I mean, what do? We do spectroscopy. Well, lots of people do spectroscopy. We do microscopy. Lots of people do microscopy. We do numerical modelling. There was a gentleman yesterday that numerical fluid dynamic modelling and all that. Oh, lots of people do that. It's the context in which you do it which defines the heritage sciences. So I think if you really do need to sit down and make these definitions, I think it's about context, the context in which you do these things, and because of that, I think the interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary nature of the subject is absolutely key. One of the questions we used to ask ourselves a lot 20 years ago was, how many jobs are there in forensic science every year? Okay, I don't know about heritage science. Okay, but there was an argument, well, there might be 20, there might be 30. It was forensic science 20 years ago. No one was quite sure whether that included Scotland and Northern Ireland. It didn't really matter. It was only going to be a few numbers. But of course, already Anglia Ruskin was on the verge of producing 80 graduates a year in forensic science. We've carried on doing it, and nearly every, I can't speak for every forensic science course, but every forensic science course which has a science-based curriculum, and not all of them do, but if you have a science-based curriculum, which mainly in analytical science, chemistry, DNA analysis, that sort of thing, very good job prospects for those people, but not necessarily in forensic science. And I think one of the speakers made that point, the gentleman from I think made the point that it's the analytical skills, the quantitative science skills, which is the key in the job market.
Thank you very much. A few issues there, perhaps. One with respect to tribal and territorial questions, perhaps, and one in relation to jobs and where those jobs are created and the transferable skills, which perhaps Robin talked a little bit about. Would you care to comment on that?
Can I just say something very, very quickly? I think there's very interesting comparisons between forensic science and heritage science. The one thing I would say is that the world is very different now. 20 years ago was a very different time in universities, and I'm very wary of, I think we should learn from and inform ourselves from forensic science, but I think it's not necessarily an easily transferable model.
Well, I think you learn what you need to learn, and one of the big barriers that people used to put up, and particularly the gatekeepers that were involved in the industry, was that there wasn't jobs for these people. Well, there clearly was jobs, so there's not job. And all the independent reviews, I mean, there's been parliamentary committees and all sorts of people like that looking into this forensic side, mainly because certain people are saying that it was taking people away from pure science. I don't think forensic science courses ever took anybody away from doing single honours chemistry or single honours physics or single honours anything else.
I'm quite sure it didn't. Yes.
No, because the numbers weren't there. Absolutely.
Thank you. I think May would like to comment on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Helen that the world is a different place now.
Yeah.
But I think what we've done, I think by instinct rather than any plan, was to engage so strongly with policymakers, bring them on side, raise the visibility of heritage science beyond its size. And it's very difficult then to begin to knock a subject when actually you've got a minister standing up and saying heritage science is a great thing. So, you know, you actually do have to play different games. You've got to make sure that you're doing research that stands up to scrutiny, that's high quality, but you've also got to play the political game and succeed at it. Not just play it.
Thank you, May. Thank you. Another challenge there. Robin?
Just a quick observation, because I've been familiar with the forensic science world, and I'm not quite sure they're the same in that forensic science is very limited because of its legal underpinning of the prosecution service, and that makes it very conservative about its adoption of new technologies. Heritage science is breaking a much wider ground, and the appetite for adoption is much wider with far lower barriers to adoption. And so while I think you're right in terms of some things you have to do to get it off the ground, I think the ground is far more fertile in order to take this the area forward.
So, could I just comment on that? At Anita University of Glasgow, as somebody of forensic science doctorate that came in through chemistry, forensic science, and then into the heritage world, the wonderful heritage, and just to sort of kind of hopefully sort of move this on a little bit as well, because I think the difference is there was a big survey done between the forensic, the FSS, the forensic science group, and also chemistry to understand what it was that was the difficulty of forensic science courses. And I think the thing that we within heritage science are doing right is that we're engaging very much what the real questions are in the industry. And I think that what forensic scientists were coming up against was in their sort of undergraduate, postgraduate training is a vicious circle of you need to get the work experience to be a forensic scientist until you have trained and qualified to be a forensic scientist. What we're doing is we're working through our collaborative projects. We are right in there answering those core questions. So I think we're very positive in that sort of sense. So that's really good. And I suppose that would be my take on it, is to encourage that from the sort of root level, the ground level, is that connectedness, encouraging and strengthening that connectedness between conservation, between the heritage science, between with historians as well as also the heritage, the historical value of adding a significance as to why we need to preserve the objects in the first place. And that is a very new and interesting area that we've, that historians are kind of just waking up to, like, oh, you can tell me about my object through the materials. There's that to be added in too. So I was wondering what the panel sort of feel in terms of, like, does that interact? Do you feel that as well? Is that where it is? Is there a connectedness between what we're doing as well? There's other doctoral programs out there that are doing heritage science as well. So I feel that connectedness in many ways is one of our key goals.
I think one of Scott's messages was actually to engage more partners in doctoral training than just traditionally academia. And I believe that perhaps a tripartite supervision we adopted in the Centre for Doctoral Training perhaps addresses that issue. Would you like to add to that, Scott?
I agree, and I think even if you look beyond institutions that typically fit the bill of those categories of institutions, I struggle to define what is the third partner in the tripartite SEAHA supervision. We have academic institutions and we have heritage partners, and the other category is so ambiguous. To define them as an industry partner or a commercial partner is, in many cases, even in the first year of the cohort, incredibly wrong. I think it's the farther we can look and the farther we can reach to diversify the people that are involved, the greater mutual benefit that can be derived.
Thank you. I saw a hand at the back for Ella.
Ella France, Library of Congress. I'd just like to kind of respond to May's call for action. I think in terms of raising the... Sorry, that was my...
No, I've seen you. I finally spotted you.
In terms of raising the profile of heritage science or heritage research, we do need to take a global perspective, because we're too inclined, whatever country we are, to look inwardly and focus on that first. And until we have a cohesive voice internationally, I think it's going to be difficult to move that forward. We of course have a very different funding body focus in the States. We don't have a Ministry of Culture, and a number of us have been really looking at, do we need to establish some sort of node that brings together a number of the larger institutions in the US to actually help move this initiative forward. So that's, I really want to see what can we do and do something.
I think you need to do both. I think you need to be strong at a national level, and different countries will use different models, okay? Because the governance structure is so different. So you have to find what works for you. But I think you need to have that in order then to build a strong international presence. I think you can't have one without the other. You absolutely need both.
There was another question at the front.
Nancy Bell. I'd kind of like to, firstly, there's fantastically rich conversation, and I hope this conversation, the questions that you've raised, continue in some form, because they've been really, really helpful. But I'd like to lob the volley back.
Nancy, can you speak up from the back?
Okay. I'd like to lob the ball back over the net from this morning, and really picking up on Heather's question about establishing an academic, the criteria that we would need to follow. And specifically, I understand the canon of literature, etc., but establishing the philosophy and uniqueness about what we do. And Matija has touched on environmental studies in other contexts as a sort of comparison, and I wondered from both of you, how would one do this? Establish a philosophy and develop the basis, a really firm foundation to establish heritage science as a unique discipline.
Nancy, we have a conversation within the National Heritage Science Forum.
I know, but I wanted to hear about the philosophy side of it.
I think it's very difficult, and I think that's why I wanted to raise these issues, because these things don't happen overnight. When you look back at the history of intellectual life, I mean, a lot of these disciplines have grown over a very long time and have accreted, developed their own theories, philosophies, or borrowed other people's. I'm not convinced it's a quick process at all. And I think that's why I think we should focus on the territory side, perhaps rather more than this. But one thing that's come out very strongly for me at this meeting is the differences in what we mean by science. So many people are talking about experimental science, but there's also the huge number of historical sciences, geology, biology, things like that. And these different types of sciences have very different traditions. And I think that's something that heritage science should engage with. And I think we ought to make sure that our students have a very rich understanding of what science means. And I think it's quite easy for all of us as individuals, because we come from one particular background, to say this is what science means. But I think that's wrong. I think there are rich discussions that we probably need to have.
And these are probably grassroots discussions rather than institution-led discussions. We need to provide the platforms within which these discussions take place.
How many chartered engineers are there in here?
How many what, sorry?
Chartered engineers. Chartered engineers. I'm just, what I'm getting at is that I think there's actually quite a big philosophical difference between those of us who work from an engineering background and those who work from a science background. And actually there's an awful lot of the experimental side where we overlap. I know how I have tried to create a professional environment in computer science for cultural heritage issues, and that has been basically by ensuring relevance through the engagement with cultural partners. We have a 20-year history of projects in which the majority of the partners have not been academic institutions, they've actually been from outside sectors. And we try and respect the disciplines we work with, and although what we're doing is novel, make sure that it's relevant to the objectives of those organisations and not necessarily our own. It produces the transferable skills that Robin was talking about. You generate new computer science, you generate new applications, you generate new methods, you generate new data structures. But actually, those are applicable in other fields, but they have come out of really thinking about the issues that are fundamental to the cultural organisations. And I think that's, to me, the glue that holds us together, as we start off trying, from our limited backgrounds as, I am not a historian, for example, trying to respect those areas, but work with them, with up-to-date computer science and with up-to-date science.
Thank you, Dave. Mike, did you want to comment as well?
I think probably it's worth mentioning the debate that I don't think I'm breaking a confidence here. I sit on the DCMS Science Advisory Council, the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and we had our first meeting. And it's called the Science Advisory Council within the Department for Culture, Media and Sport. And one of the members raised the issue as to why it's called the Science Advisory Council and not the Research Advisory Council. And there was a whole semantic discussion which went on for far too long, as far as I was concerned, about why we're using science and then there was the European view that science is all encompassing, it includes research, it's discipline, and very broadly. Anyway, we laid that to rest and we didn't change the name. But the interesting thing is that heritage science distinguishes itself because it embeds in our research arts and humanities questions, the context of how we work. And yet there is quite a lot of concern by some of the funders in this country about the use of the word science. I don't think we should actually apologise for using the word science, but I think it needs to be much broader and much more inclusive in its interpretation.
I'd like to lob in a slightly provocative left field comment here, if I could. No. Thank you. It's very interesting that listening to this debate about heritage sciences going forward, because I actually see a lot of similarities with entrepreneurs trying to get start-up companies off the ground. In that this is a young and fairly dynamic science, and it's obviously got a mission and a passion about it. But one of the two questions that entrepreneurs often face is, who wants to buy and why? And I put that challenge to heritage science. If you want funding, who wants to buy what you're doing and why? Where do you have relevance? It's what we call the so what question. The second thing, and if you can answer that, then you start to get engagement. In the case of companies, it's people who buy their products. In the case of heritage science, it's people who are going to give you funding money. So what makes it worthwhile? What raises you up their hierarchy to make you look like it's worth funding? The second question is, I see, is you're coming up with a lot of innovative new ideas and impact. Now, I've done a study of the adoption of innovation in the defence sector. And you have this peculiar thing that they don't know how to ask for innovation because they don't know about it. So how do you tell them that you've got something exciting that can help them, so that then they can ask for it and fund it? And I think that's another challenge that you need to look at, is how do you articulate some of the new things that you can do for policymakers such that they will then start to incorporate that into their thinking so it becomes then part of where they want to prioritise their funding. So I hope that was suitably provocative, and I might get shot down in flames, but I thought I'd add it.
And we have the mic here.
I'd like to say 3 very positive things about this conference. I think it's been an exceptionally good conference, and I'd personally like to thank all the presenters for giving us presentations which were really well thought through, both in terms of communications and particularly visual communication. This is not common in academic conferences, I should tell you, and some of the visual communication has been exceptional, and I'd like to really thank them for that. I'd like to thank all the people who did the posters as well, because I think the posters were really exceptional. I had an absolutely great session last night talking to the people who've done the posters. I don't know if there's a way that they could become available on the web in some way, because they're a terrific collection of things. And I'd like to say a little bit about the students, because this is an exceptional opportunity for doctoral students. I think it's a wonderful opportunity. And I think when David Arnold said at the end of the thing they're going to be the world experts in their area, yes they are. And I've talked to quite a lot of the students, and they're very, very pleased with their first year. They really have, I think, enjoyed it very much and got a great deal out of it. And I think they've organised this conference exceptionally well. I think they've been fantastic. I would just like to make one suggestion, which is that there's a bit of space, and I raised this with May earlier, there's a little bit of space within the conference for presentations from the students. These wouldn't be necessary, these aren't completed projects, these wouldn't be conclusions. These would be a space for the students to present the questions they're asking, the context that they're asking them in, and really to appeal to this really wide-ranging audience for feedback and suggestions and ideas. There are so many technologies out there now, and somebody might say, yes, have you thought of using this? And I think the students deserve a bit more space, and as I say again, fantastic thanks for organising this conference. It's been exceptional. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I should say that there will be an online feedback forum, so there will be voice those opinions, but I think I totally join in this opinion and this assessment. There was a hand in the back, I think. Marina. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to join the previous gentleman.
Could you just introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Marinos Ioannidis from Cyprus. I'm coordinating at the same time the, I will not say competitor project to SEAHA, but more or less 75% similar project as SEAHA, but on a pan-European level. And we are focusing not on a general way as you do in SEAHA, heritage science, but more on digital cultural heritage documentation. Now, if I will take as a best practice example the 5 minutes, the English 5 minutes, imagine how long it will take for a Cypriot, you know? But I will respect the English 5 minutes and I will be 5 minutes right. So, May, I want to underline something which is very important. It was the kickoff of whatever we saw and we experienced during these 2 days here, as you mentioned, the Pan-European Conference in 2004. I was here during that time. I still remember. And why? And I combine that to the politicians. We have them in our hand, but we cannot and we don't know how to play with them. Play, because you mentioned the word game. And I'm coming back. The Charter of the European Union, Article number 3, it's clearly where it's stated, we are a union. You know why? Because we have a common culture. That's the only reason why we are union. The Article 126, because this whatever we have and unite us, is so common, We need to undertake all the measures needed for the generations to come to protect and preserve. It's there. It's since the Rome Declaration, since this union exists. Because of that, that's the reason why the union is investing on research and innovation, and that's the reason why we have the conference in 2004 here. And that's the reason why David mentioned the Horizon 2020, where it was a big fight to include a year ago, 2 years ago, the cultural heritage, but it is now in, and we are going in different directions. One of them is the climate change. Second one is education. Third one, skilling the next generation of researchers. Fourth one, this is training. And that's all about also in our project. It is what we are doing. But I want also to mention something which is also very, very, very important.
But very quickly, please.
Yes.
I'm keen to wrap up, if you
This
don't
is my
mind.
last minute. The last minute. We are very weak in Europe. We don't have any, and we were talking about education, we are in a university. We don't have syllabi, we don't have curricula. We don't know how to educate the next generation of these new scientists, and you do that here in UK, as you mentioned, May, on a national way. The rest of Europe is not yet prepared well in such a way so that we can face this challenge. On the other way, Europe is facing now one of the greatest challenges. If you go from Russia, from Ukraine, down around to Syria, Palestine, and so on, Egypt surround us, there is a war. We are in a war with our neighbors. Yeah? There is a war outside of our house. The refugees are moving and coming to us, and the southern part of us, of Europe, is in a financial disaster, from the eastern part to the western part. So the politicians doesn't like to hear anything about cultural heritage now. They want to hear growth and for jobs, new companies coming out, new jobs, new whatever. The issue here is there is something in this game, good words that can be used, and they like them. One of them is that Europeans are moving, and moving why? They like to go for holidays. Tourism. And if they move and go for tourism, there is a statistic coming again from Europe, from Brussels. 92% of Europeans moving around are going to cultural heritage sites or museums. And that's one area where we invest. Taking now into account the SEAHA conference, I would like to say something. In none of your presentations, I managed to see something that came out as a result without using ICT. ICT is the main axis, is the main driven power of the heritage, science, of the cultural informatics, of the whatever, here in our area, for the next generation, for the business even, and for the growth in Europe. And that's where we need to invest.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I'm coming to the end. Please believe me. Europe is leading, Matija, and I will send you a couple of more information in the next few days. So far as heritage research concerns, science, and especially digital heritage, it is the area where we are leaders worldwide.
And there's clearly room for collaboration within Europe, and I thank you for reinforcing some of the messages of our speakers. Is there any final?
I think there are.
Oh, there may be a contribution from an SME?
Yes. Dirk from company Moderator from Germany, and actually I'm the product or the outcome of a European Union project, and now I'm industrial partner of the SEAHA. So, well, I heard about what Mr. Arnold said about what is needed for SMEs, and I heard you too what's there, and I say yes, there's a lot of enthusiastic idealism needed in the beginning, and a little bit you have to be naive to step in this parallel universe of being a businessman, which if you was a scientist. That's true, but it's still idealism, and it's still a lot of things I like to do, even if it's problematic, and I'm not a tax officer and I have to do this too, and accountants not either, and I have to do this too, yes. We are micro SME, and I really think that we are all here together with a part of idealism, because this is not a field where we can get rich, not even you as a professor or I as a company. So that is not the main reason here. So I would like to address also how I see the role, as a heritage scientist. Because in my work, work together with institutions, I often have to work together with conservators, which informs me in a way that I feel that they are abused by the system. It means they are good in manual conservation, they are professions in these fields, but they can't can't get the role as an advisory board for everything. So the complexity of the materials we work with, in combination with the diversity and the upcoming new technologies, is some kind of using the rules they have to do, like I'm doing it in the SME, micro SME. Some conservators has to fill out several positions in an institution. So I see that the heritage scientists can really have an advisory role, can in such an institution, can work together with external experts, because this is their knowledge they have, and they also can work with companies together to bring the most effective impact to the institutions, where conservators, which has to take care about exhibitions, about manual conservations, need some other experts in the team, and this would, I think, will be the heritage scientists. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Any final reflections, perhaps, from the panel? If not, in the interest of time, I'm sorry. I know there's room for more discussion, and there will be room for more discussion at future conferences, I'm sure. But in the interest of time, I'll just summarize a few bullet points. I've been making notes, and I think that the key message is that the one really loud message I heard was get organized. And I think that this is probably a key message here. We heard keywords such as continuous professional development, keywords such as engage through an association, and I'd like to perhaps remind the audience that our students are developing their Heritage Science Research network, which is an online network in which contributions from all heritage science researchers will be invited to perhaps provide an online platform to engage with each other. The other bullet point was engagement across a wide landscape, and this came from the students actually. So we need to engage with more than just academics. We need to engage with obviously heritage institutions. That's where the questions come from, they said. And we need to engage with businesses, and there were quite strong messages in terms of what businesses we could look for, either big ICT businesses or perhaps small, medium enterprises as well. But we also need to develop those transferable skills, and that's another really strong bullet point, in order to engage and develop the entrepreneurial skills among the young generation. The other really strong bullet point was to engage with policymakers on 3 key levels, not just on the governmental level, but also on our own institutional levels, and promote heritage science within our institutions, get the bruises and get stronger, and promote heritage science within the profession as well. I hope you enjoyed this roundtable session. It took a little bit longer than we planned, but I think that the discussions were extremely interesting, and I thank all our panelists as well as the public for their views.